The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Lydia Carter's kitchen counter. At 66, her hands still moved with military precision as she mixed batter. Today was different, though. Today was Marcus's 32nd birthday, and she had something special planned. The chocolate cake rising in her oven filled the small house with warmth. It was his favorite since childhood, the same recipe she'd made every year. Even during her army deployments, she'd find ways to celebrate from afar. Now retired, living alone in the house she'd worked 3 jobs to buy, Lydia wanted to surprise her only son at his downtown law office. She imagined his face lighting up, the way it used to when he was 7. Back then, Marcus would wrap his small arms around her waist, eyes sparkling. Those memories sustained her through lonely nights and aching joints from old injuries. The timer chimed, pulling her from the past into the present moment. She carefully removed the perfect cake, golden brown and still steaming hot. While it cooled, Lydia dressed in her best navy blue dress and pearls. The same outfit she wore to Marcus's law school graduation 3 years ago. She'd been so proud that day, watching her son achieve everything she'd sacrificed for. 2 hours later, Lydia parked outside the gleaming glass office building downtown. The chocolate cake sat beside her, wrapped in her grandmother's antique cake carrier. She'd driven Marcus's spare key here, planning to hide in his back seat. The surprise would be perfect when he discovered her after work. Lydia slipped into his black sedan, crouching low behind the driver's seat. Her heart raced with excitement, feeling almost giddy like a schoolgirl again. This was exactly the kind of spontaneous joy Marcus needed more of. The late afternoon heat made the car stuffy, but she didn't mind waiting. 20 minutes passed before she heard familiar voices approaching the vehicle. Marcus's deep laugh echoed across the parking garage, making her smile widely. But then she heard Vanessa's voice, sharp and calculating as always. Lydia had never quite warmed to her daughter-in-law's cold, ambitious nature. Something in Vanessa's tone made Lydia freeze, instinctively remaining perfectly still. Years of military training kicked in, every muscle tensed and alert. "The old woman's getting more suspicious lately," Vanessa whispered harshly. Lydia's blood turned to ice water in her veins immediately. "She keeps asking about our finances, wanting to help with the mortgage." Marcus's voice carried a cruel edge she'd never heard before. "We need to move faster before she changes her will again." The words hit Lydia like shrapnel, tearing through her chest painfully. "The stairs plan is still the safest option," Vanessa continued coldly. "Make it look like an accident, natural fall for someone her age." Lydia's hands began trembling violently, cake carrier slipping from her grasp. She caught it, just before it crashed, her heart hammering against ribs. "Samuel and Clarissa are still on board, right?" Marcus asked casually. Her own brother's name spoken like poison in her son's mouth. "Of course, they've been waiting years for this opportunity finally. They're tired of watching you give everything to that ungrateful old bat." The betrayal cut deeper than any battlefield wound she'd ever endured. Her brother Samuel, jealous of her sacrifices for Marcus all these years. Clarissa, his wife, always resentful of Lydia's close relationship with Marcus. The house alone is worth $400,000, plus her savings. And the life insurance policy she took out last year. Vanessa's voice grew excited, discussing Lydia's death like a business transaction. $500,000 total, enough to pay off everything and start fresh. Lydia bit her lips so hard she tasted blood, fighting back tears. The cake beside her seemed to mock everything she'd believed about family. All those years of working double shifts, sending money for law school. All those lonely birthdays spent alone while Marcus built his career. All those sacrifices made with love, now twisted into weapons against her. "When do we do it?" Marcus asked, his voice completely devoid of emotion. "This weekend, when she comes for Sunday dinner as usual. Samuel will create the distraction while you push her down the stairs." Lydia's military training suddenly flooded back, sharp and crystal clear. She'd survived 3 tours in hostile territory, But this felt different. This was her own family plotting her murder in cold blood. The sweet scent of chocolate cake now made her stomach turn violently. We just have to make sure there are no witnesses around. Clarissa will handle the aftermath, call the ambulance, play the grieving sister-in-law. Each word felt like a knife twisting deeper into her heart. But something else was awakening in Lydia's chest, something cold and calculating. The same instinct that had kept her alive in war zones. The ability to think clearly under the most extreme pressure imaginable. She'd been a reconnaissance specialist, trained in survival and strategic planning. Those skills had been dormant for years, but they were returning now. She trusts us completely, never suspects a thing, Marcus laughed bitterly. Poor old Lydia, always believing the best in everyone around her. That laugh broke something fundamental inside her chest, something irreparable. This wasn't the son she'd raised, the boy she'd loved unconditionally. This was a stranger wearing Marcus's face, speaking with his voice. But Lydia Carter hadn't survived 3 wars by giving up easily. The cake beside her had become a symbol of her naivety. But it would also become a reminder of her resilience. As the voices faded and car doors slammed shut, Lydia remained frozen. The parking garage fell silent except for her ragged breathing. She waited 15 more minutes before carefully exiting the vehicle. Walking back to her own car felt like moving through quicksand. But with each step, her military bearings slowly returned to her spine. The real war had just begun, and Lydia Carter was ready to fight. That night, Lydia sat in her darkened living room, staring at family photos. The walls told the story of a life built on sacrifice and love. Marcus at 7, gap-toothed and grinning after his first Little League game. Her late husband Robert, strong and proud in his army dress uniform. Samuel and her as children, arms wrapped around each other, inseparable back then. The memories felt like looking at someone else's life, someone more naive. 23 years ago, she'd been Staff Sergeant Lydia Carter, 3rd Infantry Division. Baghdad had been her second tour, the one that changed everything forever. She'd led reconnaissance missions through hostile neighborhoods, saving countless lives. Her unit called her Iron Lady, never rattled under the heaviest fire. But the real test came when Robert was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. She'd taken early retirement to care for him, and 8-year-old Marcus. Those final months were harder than any battlefield she'd ever faced. Robert made her promise to give Marcus every opportunity she'd never had. After the funeral, Lydia worked 3 jobs to keep that sacred promise. Morning shift at the post office, afternoons cleaning, office buildings downtown. Evenings spent tutoring neighborhood kids to pay for Marcus's private school. Samuel watched from the sidelines, always critical of her relentless dedication. He'd chosen an easier path, marrying Clarissa and settling into comfortable mediocrity. Clarissa made cutting remarks about Lydia spoiling Marcus, making him weak. But Lydia pressed on, determined to honor Robert's dying wish completely. Medical school tuition nearly broke her, forcing her to mortgage the house. She'd sold Robert's vintage motorcycle, his tools, even her grandmother's jewelry. Every sacrifice felt worthwhile when Marcus graduated with highest honors. The pride in his eyes that day had made everything seem justified. Now, sitting in the darkness, those memories tasted like poison. Her phone buzzed, breaking the heavy silence of the empty house. It was Gloria Washington, her closest friend and fellow veteran. They'd served together in Iraq, sharing foxholes and watching each other's backs. Gloria had been the only person who truly understood Lydia's sacrifice. "Girl, you sound terrible," Gloria said immediately upon hearing Lydia's voice. Lydia's composure finally cracked, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. She told Gloria everything, every horrifying detail of the overheard conversation. The plan to murder her, the involvement of Samuel and Clarissa. The cold calculation in Marcus's voice as he discussed her death. Gloria listened in stunned silence, her own anger building with each word. Those ungrateful snakes don't know who they're messing with, Gloria whispered fiercely. You survived 3 tours and raised that boy from nothing. They think you're just some helpless old woman they can dispose of. Lydia wiped her eyes, feeling something familiar stirring in her chest. It was the same cold determination that had carried her through combat. I need help, Gloria, she said quietly, her voice gaining strength. I can't fight this alone, but I won't go down without swinging. Gloria was already making mental plans, her tactical mind fully engaged. Remember David Miller, that journalist from the New York incident? Lydia's memory flashed back to that terrible day 15 years ago. She'd been visiting Marcus at Columbia when the terrorist attack happened. 3 armed men had cornered a young reporter in the subway station. Lydia had intervened, using her combat training to neutralize the threat. David Miller had owed her his life ever since that day. He'd built a career exposing corruption and bringing criminals to justice. He's got connections everywhere. Police, media, you name it, Gloria continued. If anyone can help us pull off something this big, it's David. Lydia felt her military mindset fully awakening for the first time in years. This wasn't about revenge. It was about justice and survival. Direct confrontation would be suicide, just like charging a machine gun nest. She needed strategy, patience, and the element of complete surprise. What are you thinking? Gloria asked, sensing the shift in Lydia's tone. I'm thinking we fake my death and let them show their true colors. The plan began forming in her mind, complex but absolutely achievable. We stage an accident, get fake death certificates, fake cremation papers. Let them think they've won. Let them celebrate my demise openly. Gloria's sharp intake of breath told Lydia she understood the brilliance immediately. Then we catch them in the act of dividing up your assets. Record everything. Get them to confess their crimes on camera. Lydia stood up, pacing now with renewed energy and purpose. Her reflection in the window showed a woman transformed. Gone was the grieving mother, replaced by the seasoned tactical specialist. I'll call David tonight, set up a meeting for tomorrow morning. This operation requires precise timing and absolute professional execution. Gloria's laughter carried both admiration and fierce protective love. Iron Lady's back, and those fools have no idea what's coming. Lydia walked to her bedroom closet, pushing aside civilian clothes. In the back hung her old army dress uniform, still pristine. Beside it sat a small wooden box containing her military decorations. Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Combat Infantry Badge, all earned in blood. She'd put away that part of herself when Robert died. But tonight, Staff Sergeant Lydia Carter was reporting for duty again. The mission parameters were clear: expose the enemy and survive. She'd faced enemy snipers, improvised explosive devices, and mortar attacks. 4 greedy family members would seem like a training exercise. Lydia opened her laptop and began researching David Miller's current contact information. Within minutes, she'd found his investigative journalism firm in Manhattan. Her fingers hesitated over the keyboard for just a moment. Once she made this call, there would be no turning back. The sweet, naive grandmother would disappear forever. But the alternative was dying alone on her own staircase. Lydia Carter had never backed down from a fight before. She wasn't about to start now. David Miller arrived at Lydia's house exactly at dawn, carrying a briefcase. His weathered face bore the scars of 15 years investigating dangerous criminals. But nothing had prepared him for this particular mission of deception. "You sure about this, Lydia?" he asked, setting up hidden cameras throughout. "Once we start, there's no going back to your old life." Lydia nodded firmly, her military resolve stronger than ever before. "My old life died the moment I heard those words yesterday." Gloria emerged from the kitchen, wearing scrubs she'd borrowed from work. As a retired army medic, she knew exactly how to stage injuries. "We've got 4 hours before Marcus expects you for Sunday dinner." The plan required split-second timing and absolute commitment to the deception. David had spent all night forging documents with his underground contacts. Death certificate, cremation authorization, even fake medical examiner reports. His reputation for exposing corruption had earned him some questionable friendships. But today, those connections would serve justice instead of just truth. Remember, the fall has to look completely authentic, Gloria instructed carefully. Broken hip, head trauma, but nothing that actually hurts you permanently. They'd practiced the choreography a dozen times throughout the early morning hours. Lydia would tumble down exactly 7 steps, landing in a predetermined position. Gloria would apply theatrical makeup to simulate bruising and blood. David's cameras would capture everything from multiple hidden angles. "The ambulance crew are my guys," David explained, checking his watch. "They'll pronounce you dead at the scene. No hospital involvement. Coroner's office gets the fake paperwork. Crematorium handles the fake ashes." Lydia felt surreal, planning her own death while very much alive. But this was war, and in war, deception often meant survival. At exactly 11:30, Lydia positioned herself at the staircase. She wore her best Sunday dress, the one Marcus always complimented. Ironic that she'd die in clothes chosen to please her murderer. Gloria counted down from 10, cameras rolling silently from hidden positions. Lydia threw herself down the stairs with controlled precision. Years of military training allowed her to fall without serious injury. She landed perfectly, head positioned to appear lifeless and broken. Gloria immediately began applying fake blood and checking for real injuries. "You okay?" she whispered, working quickly with professional medical expertise. Lydia lay completely still, practicing the art of playing dead. It was harder than combat, requiring absolute motionless discipline. 15 minutes later, the specially arranged ambulance arrived, with sirens wailing. David's contacts performed their roles flawlessly, pronouncing death immediately. Marcus and Vanessa arrived within the hour, summoned by Gloria's panicked call. Their Oscar-worthy performance of grief began the moment they entered. "Oh God, what happened?" Marcus cried, rushing to the covered body. But Lydia caught the flash of relief in his eyes. Vanessa sobbed dramatically, clutching Marcus's arm for support and comfort. "She was coming down for lunch when she fell," Gloria explained tearfully. "I heard the crash from the kitchen, but it was too late." Samuel and Clarissa arrived shortly after, their fake tears flowing freely. "My poor sister," Samuel wailed, his voice breaking with false emotion. But his eyes were already calculating, measuring the house's value. Clarissa played the devastated sister-in-law perfectly, comforting everyone present. Yet her gaze kept drifting to Lydia's expensive furniture. The 4 conspirators huddled together, whispering about immediate funeral arrangements. "We should keep it simple," Marcus suggested, his voice carefully controlled. Mother always preferred quiet, intimate gatherings over big celebrations. David's hidden microphones captured every whispered conversation between them. "Cremation would be faster," Vanessa added, trying to sound respectful. "Less expensive too, which is what she would have wanted." The speed of their planning revealed their true eagerness. Within 24 hours, they'd arranged everything with unseemly haste. The funeral home, the cremation, even the division of assets. From her hiding place across the street, Lydia watched everything unfold. David had arranged a safe house where she could observe undetected. Through binoculars, she saw her own funeral with surreal detachment. The service lasted exactly 30 minutes, minimal and rushed. Marcus delivered a eulogy that sounded rehearsed and emotionally hollow. "My mother lived for others, always putting family first," he said. The irony of those words cut through Lydia like sharpened steel. Vanessa dabbed her eyes with tissues, playing the grieving daughter-in-law. But between tears, she was texting someone, probably about house valuations. Samuel spoke about childhood memories that never actually happened. Clarissa nodded solemnly, her mind clearly focused on inheritance details. Only 6 people attended the service, including the conspirators themselves. No friends, no neighbors, No one who actually cared about Lydia. The cremation happened immediately afterward. Another rushed formality. David's contact provided fake ashes in an expensive urn. Marcus held it briefly, his expression more relieved than sorrowful. "At least she's at peace now," he said to Vanessa. Finally free from all her worries and financial struggles. That evening, the four gathered at Lydia's house for dinner. They didn't even wait one full day before discussing asset division. The house should sell for at least $400,000, Samuel calculated. Plus her savings account and that life insurance policy. Clarissa was already measuring windows for new curtains she wanted. "We could renovate this place, turn it into something really special." Marcus poured expensive wine, toasting their successful deception. "To Mother," he said, raising his glass with mock solemnity. "She finally did something useful for our family." From her hidden position, Lydia watched her son celebrate her death. The man she'd sacrificed everything for was drinking to her demise. Tears streamed down her face, but her resolve only grew stronger. Tomorrow, David would begin phase 2 of their elaborate plan. The resurrection would be even more dramatic than the death. But tonight, Lydia Carter was officially dead and buried. And her killers were about to learn what true justice looked like. 3 days after the funeral, the vultures descended on Lydia's house. Marcus used his spare key, entering like he owned the place already. Which, according to the forged will David had planted, he did. Vanessa followed close behind, her eyes immediately assessing furniture values. "God, this place smells like old woman and mothballs," she complained loudly. Samuel and Clarissa arrived within minutes, carrying legal documents and calculators. The dining room table became their war room for dividing the spoils. From the house across the street, Lydia watched through high-powered binoculars. David and Gloria flanked her, monitoring the feeds from hidden cameras. They'd spent 2 nights installing surveillance equipment throughout the house. Micro cameras in light fixtures, audio devices behind picture frames. Every angle covered, every whispered conversation would be crystal clear. "Look at them," Gloria muttered, watching the live video feed. "Acting like they're at a goddamn garage sale instead of mourning." Lydia's jaw clenched as she watched Marcus rifling through her jewelry. He held up her wedding ring, the one she'd worn faithfully. "This might be worth something," he said, tossing it carelessly aside. Vanessa was already measuring the living room for new furniture placement. "We should gut this whole place. Start fresh with modern decor. All this old-fashioned stuff makes me feel claustrophobic and depressed." Samuel spread bank statements across the polished oak dining table. The same table where Lydia had served countless family dinners. Savings account has $47,000, checking has $12,000 more. Life insurance policy pays out $250,000. Clarissa clapped her hands together like an excited child at Christmas. Plus whatever we get for selling this dump of a house. I never understood why she insisted on living in this neighborhood. Marcus poured himself a glass of Lydia's expensive bourbon. The bottle she'd been saving for his next promotion celebration. To finally being free from her constant guilt trips and lectures. No more pretending to care about her boring war stories. Each word felt like a physical blow to Lydia's chest. But she forced herself to keep watching, to document every betrayal. David adjusted the camera angles remotely, ensuring perfect audio quality. "We're getting everything," he whispered, his voice tight with anger. "Conspiracy, fraud, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder." Vanessa discovered Lydia's jewelry box, dumping contents onto the table. "Most of this is junk, but there might be something valuable." She held up Lydia's purple heart medal, examining it with confusion. "What the hell is this ugly thing supposed to be?" "Some kind of military garbage," Marcus said, barely glancing over. "Toss it. Nobody cares about her soldier days anymore." Lydia's hands trembled as she watched her highest honor discarded carelessly. That medal represented 3 tours, 2 near-death experiences, Countless lives saved. Gloria placed a steadying hand on her shoulder, understanding the pain. "Stay focused," she whispered. "We're building an airtight case here." Samuel found Lydia's photo albums, flipping through them with obvious boredom. "Should we keep any of these old pictures or trash them?" "Trash," Clarissa said immediately, not even looking at the memories. Who wants reminders of that miserable old woman hanging around? 40 years of family photographs, dismissed in a single heartless sentence. Pictures of Marcus as a baby, toddler, graduating from law school. All the milestones Lydia had documented with such loving care. "Here's the insurance paperwork," Vanessa announced, waving documents triumphantly. "Claims department said it'll take 2 weeks to process everything. By then, we can have this place listed and sold." Marcus raised his glass again, this time in genuine celebration. "To the easiest inheritance we'll ever receive in our lives. And to finally being rid of her holier-than-thou attitude forever." The four clinked glasses, laughing at their perceived cleverness and success. David's cameras captured every smile, every toast, every damning word. "Look at them," he muttered, reviewing the footage on his laptop. "They're not even trying to hide their contempt for her. This is beyond cold-blooded. This is pure evil in action." Lydia watched Clarissa stuff expensive silverware into her oversized purse. "No one will miss a few pieces," she rationalized shamelessly. "Lydia would want us to take whatever we need anyway." Samuel was already making calls to real estate agents. "Yeah, we want to list it as soon as possible. Estate sale, motivated sellers, whatever gets it sold fastest." Vanessa found Lydia's checkbook, examining the balance with obvious satisfaction. "There's enough here to cover our credit card debt immediately. Plus that vacation to Europe we've been planning for months." Marcus signed document after document, forging Lydia's signature when necessary. His handwriting practice sessions from childhood finally paying off criminally. The lawyer said probate should be simple since everything's straightforward. No other relatives to contest anything. No complicated legal issues. If only they knew their every move was being documented. The hidden cameras captured their greed in stunning high-definition detail. Audio equipment recorded their cold calculations about Lydia's worthless life. "Phase 1 complete," David whispered, reviewing hours of damning footage. "We've got enough evidence to put them away for decades." But Lydia wanted more than just evidence of their greed. She wanted them to confess to the original murder plot. "Tomorrow's the real test," she said, her voice steady and determined. "When they think they're completely safe, they'll get careless. That's when we spring the trap and expose everything." Gloria nodded, understanding the psychological warfare they were waging. They have no idea the dead woman is watching every move. No idea their victim is about to become their worst nightmare. As evening fell, the conspirators finally left Lydia's house. Their arms loaded with stolen possessions and forged legal documents. But they'd left behind something infinitely more valuable than they'd taken. Complete, undeniable proof of their heartless betrayal and criminal conspiracy. Tomorrow would bring the resurrection they never saw coming. And justice they would never forget. Gloria's small apartment felt like a sanctuary after days of surveillance. The modest living room held mismatched furniture and faded military photographs. Two old soldiers seeking comfort in familiar surroundings and shared memories. Lydia sat cross-legged on the worn couch, clutching a shoebox. Inside lay the remnants of her life before everything fell apart. Photographs spanning 40 years, each one telling a different story entirely. Her hands trembled as she lifted the first picture from the pile. 23-year-old Staff Sergeant Carter in desert camouflage, rifle in hand. Eyes bright with purpose, standing beside her unit in Baghdad. Back when she believed in honor, duty, and family loyalty. "Look at us," she whispered, showing Gloria the faded photograph. "We thought we were so tough, ready to take on the world." Gloria leaned closer, studying their younger faces with nostalgic sadness. We were tough, she corrected gently. Still are, just battle-tested now. The next photo showed Robert on their wedding day, handsome in dress blues. His smile radiant with love and dreams of their future together. He would have handled this differently, Lydia said, tracing his face. Robert always saw the best in people, even when they disappointed. Maybe that's where I went wrong with Marcus all these years. Gloria poured 2 generous glasses of bourbon, sliding one across the table. You didn't go wrong anywhere, girl, she said firmly. You loved that boy with everything you had inside you. That's not a mistake. That's what good mothers do naturally. Lydia found the hospital photo from Marcus's birth, 32 years ago. Tiny red face scrunched up, fists waving at the unfamiliar world. She'd counted his fingers and toes a dozen times that day. Robert had cried harder than she did, overwhelmed with protective love. I used to dream about his future, she said softly. College graduation, wedding day, maybe grandchildren someday soon. Never once imagined he'd be planning my murder for money. The bourbon burned her throat, but the pain felt cleaner than heartbreak. Gloria studied her own collection of photos, memories scattered across decades. Remember when we thought our biggest enemies wore different uniforms? At least in war, you knew who was shooting at you. This family betrayal stuff is a whole different kind of warfare. They sat in comfortable silence, processing the weight of recent revelations. The apartment's radiator clanked rhythmically, a metallic lullaby of sorts. Outside, traffic hummed through the city streets like distant artillery. My hip's acting up again, Lydia mentioned, shifting position carefully. Old shrapnel wound from that roadside bomb in Fallujah. Funny how it only hurts when I'm stressed or angry. Gloria laughed bitterly, rubbing her own scarred shoulder blade. Mine's my back, courtesy of that mortar attack near Tikrit. 30 years later, and our bodies still remember every war. Now we've got new scars forming, invisible ones this time. Lydia picked up another photograph, Marcus graduating from law school. She'd worked 4 jobs that final year to cover tuition. Cleaning offices at night, tutoring kids on weekends, selling plasma. Her hands had been permanently stained from industrial cleaning chemicals, but his smile that graduation day had made everything worthwhile. I was so proud, she whispered, tears threatening again. Thought all the sacrifice had finally paid off completely. Thought I'd raised a man of integrity and honor. Gloria refilled their glasses, her movements deliberate and steady. You did raise him right, she insisted with conviction. Somewhere along the way, he chose greed over everything you taught. That's on him, not on you or your parenting. The old soldiers shared stories late into the evening hours. Combat missions, close calls, friends lost in hostile territory. The brotherhood forged in foxholes and under enemy fire. Remember Sergeant Rodriguez? Gloria asked, smiling despite the pain. Used to say war was easier than raising teenagers. Turns out he was right about that observation. At least enemy soldiers don't pretend to love you first. Lydia found herself laughing for the first time in days. Real laughter, not the bitter kind that had consumed her lately. Rodriguez also said the best revenge was living well afterward. Wonder what he'd think about our current situation here. Probably tell us to kick some ass and take names. Gloria raised her glass in a mock toast to absent friends. To Rodriguez, and all the good ones we lost. To surviving wars, cancer, heartbreak, and family betrayal. To being tough old broads who don't go down easy. They clinked glasses, the sound echoing in the quiet apartment. The bourbon was working its magic, numbing edges and softening pain. Tomorrow's going to be brutal, Lydia said, facing the reality. Seeing their faces when I rise from the dead. Watching Marcus realize his mother outsmarted him completely. Gloria's expression hardened with protective fury and determination. That boy has no idea what kind of woman he betrayed. You survived 3 tours, raised him alone, beat cancer. 4 greedy family members are nothing compared to that history. Lydia studied her reflection in the darkened window glass. The woman staring back looked older, wearier, but unbroken. Gray hair pulled back in a practical military bun. Eyes that had seen too much, endured more than anyone should. "I keep thinking about that chocolate cake," she said quietly. "How excited I was to surprise him with something special. How stupid and naive I must have seemed to them. But you know what bothers me most about everything?" Gloria waited, understanding the need to process these complex emotions. "It's not even the money or the house or insurance. It's that they never loved me at all. 32 years of pretending, and I never suspected once." The radiator clanked again, marking time in the heavy silence. Two warriors preparing for their final battle together. Tomorrow would bring justice, exposure, and hopefully some peace. But tonight belonged to grief, friendship, and quiet strength. "Get some sleep," Gloria said, gathering the scattered photographs. "Tomorrow we show the world what real soldiers look like. Tomorrow we remind everyone that dead women tell tales." Lydia smiled, feeling her resolve crystallizing into something unbreakable. She'd survived war zones, and now she'd survive her own home. Saturday morning arrived with unseasonable warmth and brilliant sunshine streaming through windows. David had worked all night coordinating with his media contacts nationwide. Channel 7 agreed to broadcast the asset division Live as Human Interest. The story angle was perfect for afternoon television ratings and viewership. Grieving family members dividing their beloved matriarch's earthly possessions respectfully. What viewers didn't know was they'd witnessed the resurrection of justice. By 10 a.m., the television crew had transformed Lydia's living room. Professional lighting illuminated every corner with harsh, unforgiving brightness. 3 cameras positioned strategically to capture every facial expression and reaction. The dining room table displayed neat stacks of legal documents. Bank statements, insurance policies, property deeds, all arranged for maximum drama. Marcus arrived first, wearing his most expensive charcoal gray suit. He'd practiced his grieving son routine in the mirror that morning. Somber expression, occasional sighs, the picture of dignified bereavement and loss. Vanessa followed in conservative black dress, playing the devoted daughter-in-law. Her makeup was flawless, designed to look naturally beautiful on camera. Samuel and Clarissa completed the quartet, both dressed in funeral attire. The perfect image of a family united in grief and respect. "Thank you for allowing us to document this private moment," the reporter said. Channel 7's Lisa Martinez was known for her compassionate human interest stories. "Our viewers appreciate seeing how families honor their loved ones. Even in death, Mrs. Carter continues bringing people together beautifully." Marcus nodded solemnly, his performance Oscar-worthy in its false sincerity. "Mother would have wanted us to handle this with dignity and grace. She always believed in taking care of family above everything else." The cameras began rolling at exactly 11:30 a.m., broadcasting live. Thousands of viewers tuned in, expecting a heartwarming family story. Instead, they were about to witness the crime of the century. "Let's begin with the house," Marcus said, consulting his carefully prepared notes. "The property is valued at approximately $400,000 currently. We've agreed to sell it and divide proceeds equally among us." Vanessa smiled sweetly for the cameras, her mask of grief perfectly intact. "Lydia always wanted us to be financially secure and comfortable. This inheritance will help us honor her memory through smart investments." Samuel spread bank statements across the table with theatrical precision. Her savings account contains $63,000 in total assets, plus checking account funds and several certificates of deposit maturing soon. Clarissa dabbed her eyes with tissues, playing grief like a symphony. She was always so careful with money, planning for our futures. Even in death, she's still taking care of her family. The reporter leaned forward, genuinely moved by their apparent devotion. "It's beautiful how she provided for everyone, even after passing." What do you think she would say about this arrangement? Marcus's smile was cold and calculating, hidden beneath practiced sorrow. Mother always said family comes first, no matter what happens. She'd be proud knowing we're following her values and teachings. From her position in David's surveillance van, Lydia watched every lie. Each false tear, each manufactured emotion, each calculated deception recorded forever. Ready? David asked, his hand hovering over the door release button. Once you walk through that door, there's no going back. Lydia adjusted her best red dress, the one she'd worn proudly. Her Purple Heart medal pinned prominently on her lapel for recognition. Hair styled perfectly, makeup applied with military precision and care. She looked like a woman who'd risen from the dead. Which, technically speaking, was exactly what had happened here. "I've been ready for this moment my entire life," she said. "Let's show America what real justice looks like on television." Inside the house, the conspirators continued their performance enthusiastically. "The life insurance policy pays $250,000, Vanessa announced. "We should receive those funds within the next 2 weeks. Lydia specifically wanted that money to secure our children's futures." Marcus held up the fake urn containing David's manufactured ashes. "We've decided to scatter her remains in the garden tomorrow. She loved working with flowers and plants during her retirement years." The reporter smiled warmly, completely taken in by their elaborate charade. This is exactly the kind of family love our viewers need. In these difficult times, it's refreshing to see such unity. Samuel raised a glass of Lydia's expensive wine in tribute. "To our beloved Lydia, who gave everything for family happiness. May she rest in peace knowing we're all taken care of." The 4 conspirators clinked glasses, their triumph barely concealed beneath grief. "She was truly one of a kind," Clarissa added tearfully. "We'll miss her wisdom, her strength, her generous spirit daily." At that exact moment, the front door swung open dramatically. Lydia Carter stepped into her own living room, very much alive. The wine glasses crashed to the floor in simultaneous shock. Marcus's face drained of all color, his mouth hanging open. Vanessa stumbled backward, knocking over her chair with a crash. Samuel gripped the table edge, his knuckles white with terror. Clarissa's scream pierced the air, raw and primal with fear. The television cameras captured every expression of guilt and horror. Thousands of viewers across America gasped in collective amazement and disbelief. "Hello, family," Lydia said, her voice carrying deadly calm authority. "Sorry, I'm late to my own funeral asset division. I see you've been dividing up my life quite efficiently." The reporter stared in confusion, microphone trembling in her hands. "I don't understand what's happening here right now." "Mrs. Carter, you were reported dead 3 days ago." Lydia smiled with the cold precision of a trained killer. "Reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated, as they say. But reports of their greed and betrayal are absolutely accurate." Marcus finally found his voice, though it came out strangled. "Mother, how are you here? We buried you yesterday. We scattered your ashes, we held a memorial service." Lydia's laugh was sharp as broken glass, cutting through deception. "You scattered wood ash from David's fireplace, you idiots? Did you really think I'd die that easily for you?" The live television audience watched in stunned silence and fascination. Social media exploded with shares, comments, and shocked reactions immediately. This was no longer just a human interest story anymore. This was the resurrection that would change everything, forever. The living room fell into deathly silence, broken only by heavy breathing. Marcus stared at his supposedly dead mother, his mind racing frantically. "This isn't possible," he whispered, his voice cracking with terror. "You fell down the stairs. We saw your body ourselves." Lydia walked deeper into the room, her military bearing commanding attention. "You saw exactly what I wanted you to see, son. Turns out, all that army training comes in handy sometimes." The television cameras continued rolling, capturing every moment of the confrontation. Lisa Martinez held her microphone with trembling hands, sensing explosive news. Mrs. Carter, can you explain what's happening here today? Are you saying your death was somehow fabricated completely? Lydia reached into her purse, withdrawing a small digital recorder. I'm saying these 4 people conspired to murder me. And I have the recordings to prove every word absolutely. David appeared in the doorway, flanked by 2 uniformed police officers. Detective Sarah Wilson stepped forward, her expression grimly professional and determined. We've been monitoring this situation for the past 3 days. Mrs. Carter has provided extensive evidence of conspiracy to commit murder. Vanessa's perfectly applied makeup began streaking down her pale cheeks. This is insane. We would never hurt Lydia ever. She's obviously having some kind of mental breakdown or episode. Lydia pressed play on the digital recorder, volume turned high. Marcus's voice filled the room, crystal clear and absolutely damning. The stairs plan is still the safest option for us. Make it look like an accident. Natural fall for someone her age. The blood drained from Marcus's face as his own words condemned him. On live television, thousands of viewers heard his cold calculation. Social media exploded with comments, shares, and outraged reactions immediately. The recording continued, capturing every detail of their murderous conspiracy. Samuel and Clarissa are still on board, right? Marcus's voice asked. Of course, they've been waiting years for this opportunity finally. Samuel lurched forward, desperation etched across his weathered features. That's not what we meant. You're taking everything out of context. We were just talking hypothetically about elderly safety concerns. Detective Wilson raised her hand, silencing his pathetic attempts at denial. We have hours of recorded conversations, Mr. Carter, including discussions about dividing insurance money and selling property immediately. Clarissa pointed accusingly at Lydia, her composure completely shattered now. She's been spying on us, recording private family conversations illegally. This is entrapment. She set us up from the beginning. Lydia's laugh was cold and sharp as winter wind. I set you up by overhearing your murder plot? I set you up by refusing to die quietly? The recorder continued playing, revealing more damning evidence of betrayal. Vanessa's voice discussing insurance payouts with obvious greed and excitement. $500,000 total, enough to pay off everything completely. And the life insurance policy she took out last year. Lisa Martinez struggled to maintain professional composure during the broadcast. This is unprecedented, folks, she told her television audience. We're witnessing what appears to be a conspiracy to commit murder. Being exposed live on Channel 7, afternoon programming. Marcus made one desperate attempt to control the narrative completely. Mother, you're clearly confused about what you heard yesterday. We love you. We would never do anything to hurt you. Lydia stepped closer, her eyes blazing with righteous fury and determination. Love doesn't plot to push mothers downstairs, Marcus. Love doesn't celebrate death with expensive wine and false tears. She turned to address the television cameras directly and powerfully. America needs to see what real family betrayal looks like. These 4 people planned my murder for money, nothing more. The recordings played their most damning moments, voices clear and undeniable. Poor old Lydia, always believing the best in everyone around her. Marcus's cruel laughter echoed through the room, condemning him completely. Detective Wilson signaled to her backup officers waiting outside patiently. Marcus Carter, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder. Vanessa Carter, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder. The handcuffs clicked with metallic finality around their trembling wrists. Samuel Carter, Clarissa Carter, you're also under arrest immediately. You have the right to remain silent during questioning. Vanessa began sobbing hysterically as the reality hit her fully. This isn't happening. This has to be some nightmare. We didn't actually do anything wrong or illegal yet. Detective Wilson's expression remained stone-cold and utterly professional. Conspiracy to commit murder is a felony in this state. Planning a crime is just as serious as executing it. Samuel tried one last desperate plea as officers approached him. Lydia, please. We're family. We can work this out. You know I've always loved you like a real sister. Lydia's voice carried the weight of absolute finality and judgment. Family doesn't plan murder for inheritance money, Samuel. Family doesn't celebrate when their loved ones die mysteriously. The police officers efficiently secured all 4 conspirators in handcuffs. Their perfect plan had become their perfect downfall on live television. Lisa Martinez addressed her stunned audience with professional urgency. We're witnessing an extraordinary turn of events here today. What began as a family asset division has become criminal exposure. This is investigative journalism at its most dramatic and unexpected. As the conspirators were led away, cameras captured their destruction. Marcus looked back at his mother with hatred, not remorse. Vanessa continued sobbing, her designer dress wrinkled and mascara ruined. Samuel and Clarissa walked in stunned silence, their greed exposed. Lydia stood in her living room, surrounded by scattered legal documents. The fake urn lay shattered on the floor, wood ash scattered. This concludes our live broadcast, Lisa Martinez announced solemnly. We'll continue following this developing story throughout the week. Detective Wilson approached Lydia with obvious respect and admiration. Ma'am, that was the most elaborate sting operation I've witnessed. Your military training certainly served you well in this situation. Lydia looked around her violated home, feeling both victory and sadness. Justice had been served, but at the cost of family. The 4 people she'd loved most had betrayed her completely. But she was alive, vindicated, and finally free from their deception. The truth had been unleashed, and justice had been served. On live television, for all America to witness and remember. 1 year later, autumn leaves painted the courthouse steps in gold. Lydia Carter walked down those steps with her head held high. The trial had lasted 8 months, dominating headlines across the nation. Marcus received 15 years for conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Vanessa got 12 years for her role in the elaborate scheme. Samuel and Clarissa each received 10 years for conspiracy and fraud. Justice had been served, but it felt hollow without family reconciliation. The house sale had closed that morning, finally ending that chapter. $450,000, more than the original estimate. Every room had been emptied, every memory carefully packed away. The chocolate cake carrier still sat in her storage unit. A reminder of innocence lost and trust forever broken. But today wasn't about dwelling on past betrayals and heartache. Today was about building something beautiful from the ashes of destruction. Gloria waited beside her rental car, wearing her best dress. Ready for the big announcement? She asked, squeezing Lydia's hand. Ready as I'll ever be, Lydia replied, straightening her shoulders. They drove to the community college across town in comfortable silence. The same college where Lydia had earned her degree at 50. Back when she still believed in family loyalty and sacrifice. The auditorium was packed with reporters, students, and single mothers. Women who understood struggle, sacrifice, and the weight of responsibility. Dean Patterson introduced Lydia to thunderous applause from the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mrs. Lydia Carter, founder of the Carter Hope Scholarship Fund for single mothers. Lydia approached the podium, her voice steady and strong. 1 year ago, I learned that family isn't always blood. Sometimes the people who love you most are strangers. Sometimes, the people who betray you share your name. The audience listened intently, many wiping away tears of recognition. This scholarship fund represents hope over hatred, she continued powerfully. It represents building up instead of tearing down others. It represents believing in tomorrow when today feels impossible. She announced the fund's initial endowment of $400,000, enough to provide full scholarships for 40 single mothers annually. Education is the one inheritance no one can steal, she declared. Knowledge is the one investment that always pays dividends. The applause was deafening, filled with genuine appreciation and gratitude. After the ceremony, Lydia walked through Central Park with friends. David had become like the brother Samuel never was. Gloria remained her closest confidant and fellow warrior in life. "Any regrets?" David asked, his journalist instincts still sharp. "About exposing them? About the whole elaborate plan we executed?" Lydia considered the question carefully, watching children play nearby. Young mothers pushed strollers, their faces bright with love. The same love she'd once felt for Marcus so many years ago. "I regret that it came to this point," she answered honestly. "But I don't regret surviving or fighting back courageously. I don't regret choosing justice over family loyalty." They found a bench overlooking the lake, golden hour approaching. Lydia pulled out her phone, scrolling through scholarship applications. Dozens of women seeking second chances, better futures for their children. Stories of resilience that reminded her why the fight mattered. Maria Rodriguez, single mother of 3, studying nursing, she read. Dreams of opening a clinic in her neighborhood someday. Jennifer Williams, raising twins alone, pursuing computer programming degree. Wants to create educational software for underprivileged kids. Each application represented hope, triumphing over circumstance and hardship. Women refusing to let poverty or abandonment define their futures. The same spirit that had carried Lydia through 3 wars. "You know what the best part is?" Gloria asked thoughtfully. "These women will never know about Marcus or the betrayal. They'll just know someone believed in their dreams enough to help." Lydia smiled, feeling peace settle in her chest for first time. The anger had faded, replaced by purpose and genuine contentment. "I spent 32 years investing in the wrong person," she reflected. "Now I'm investing in 40 women who won't disappoint me. Women who understand that opportunity is precious, not guaranteed." David pulled out his camera, old habits from journalism never dying. "Mind if I get a photo for the article?" This story deserves a proper ending, something hopeful and inspiring. Lydia stood between her chosen family, arms linked in solidarity. 3 veterans who'd survived war, betrayal, and heartbreak together. Their faces showed scars, both visible and hidden beneath skin. But their eyes sparkled with life, laughter, and unbreakable friendship. "Make sure you get my good side," Lydia joked. "At 66, I'm not sure I have one anymore." "You're crazy," Gloria laughed. "You look better than ever. Freedom suits you better than grief or family obligation." The camera clicked, capturing a moment of pure joy. 3 friends who'd found family in each other's loyalty. As the sun set behind them, Lydia addressed the camera directly. "My name is Lydia Carter, and I'm 66 years old. 1 year ago, my family tried to murder me. Today, I'm funding 40 dreams for single mothers nationwide. Life isn't measured by what we lose to betrayal. It's measured by how we rise after everything falls apart. It's measured by what we build from broken pieces." She paused, her voice carrying the weight of hard-earned wisdom. "I survived 3 wars, cancer, widowhood, and family betrayal. But the most important battle was learning to choose myself. Learning that some fights are worth fighting, even alone. Learning that justice isn't revenge, it's protection for others." The camera pulled back slowly, showing the 3 friends walking away. Lydia's laughter echoed across the park as children played nearby. She blended into the crowd of ordinary people living extraordinary lives. A woman who died and been reborn stronger than before. At 66, she'd never been happier or more alive. The scholarship fund would outlive her, helping women for generations. Her legacy wouldn't be the son who betrayed her trust. It would be the mothers who succeeded because someone believed. As darkness fell over the city, hope continued shining bright. In scholarship applications, in friendship, in second chances given freely, Lydia Carter had won the most important victory of all. She'd chosen love over hatred, hope over despair, purpose over bitterness. And in doing so, she'd found her way home.